This day in sports history. It's January 31st, and on this day throughout sports history, we had a Super Bowl first. A couple of close calls, and a couple of guys who liked to score set some new records. Those stories plus a non-sports fun fact at the end to double your pleasure. I'll get started right after this.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. sterlingsoap.com.
Let's start with what happened on this day in 1988, when Doug Williams became the first black quarterback to start in a Super Bowl. Now, Williams was no stranger to breaking barriers, even if he was a bit reluctant to talk about it and focus on it. He preferred to leave that to others. But he was the first black quarterback drafted in the first round of the NFL draft in 1978 when Tampa Bay took him with the 17th overall pick. When Tampa played Chicago in 1979, he and Vince Evans became the first black quarterbacks to go head-to-head in an NFL game. He led the Bad News Bucs to the NFC Championship that same year before losing to the Rams. He was also familiar with being underappreciated. He was the lowest-paid starting quarterback in the league, and he was even paid less than half of the backups in the league carrying clipboards in the late 70s and 80s. After asking for a raise and then not getting it, Williams went to the USFL for a couple of disappointing seasons before Washington's Joe Gibbs, who'd been the OC in Tampa when he was a Buck, brought him back to the NFL as a backup to Jay Schrader. Now, after a disappointing Week 15 loss in 1987 to Miami and a rough start to the final regular season game against Minnesota, Gibbs inserted Williams in as quarterback, and he rallied the Skins to an overtime win over the Vikings, and Williams was the starter for playoff wins over Chicago and Minnesota in the NFC title game. So, it was on to the Super Bowl, and the historic start was front of mind for the media in the lead-up to the big game. One reporter famously asked Williams during media day, "How long have you been a black quarterback?" And while Williams certainly understood the significance, he was deferential, answering another question by saying, "Joe Gibbs and Bobby Beathard didn't bring me here to be the first African-American quarterback in the Super Bowl. They brought me here to be the quarterback for the Washington Redskins." But he nearly was not either. The day before the game, Williams developed sharp pain in a tooth and then spent 6 hours in a dentist's chair suffering through a root canal, and he didn't get much sleep the night before. But he was determined to not let it affect him. Denver delivered a punch to the mouth early, though, taking a 10-0 lead in the first quarter. That obviously doesn't seem insurmountable, but at that point in Super Bowl history, no team had ever overcome a 10-point deficit. But in true barrier-breaking fashion, Williams went wild in the second quarter.
And Williams going deep. Sanders beats Haynes. Sanders out in front. 80 yards, touchdown. Hello, sports fans. Whoa. Third down, short 2. Long 1 from the 28. Williams for Clark. Touchdown. Fake to Smith. Williams deep for Sanders again. Makes the catch at the 10. Touchdown. Whoa. And he lost it for Didier. And as Frank said, it's getting to be Didier time. Touchdown.
He threw 4 touchdowns in the second quarter. Timmy Smith tossed in a 58-yard touchdown run for good measure as the Redskins rolled up 357 total yards in the second quarter to take a commanding 35-10 lead at the half. Smith added his second rushing TD in the fourth to provide the final margin of 42-10, and Doug Williams not only became the first black quarterback to start a Super Bowl, but also the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl MVP trophy after throwing for 340 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. On this day 5 years later in 1993, it was Super Bowl XXVII. Dallas blew out Buffalo in the game that is best known for this play.
4th down and 6, and Wright fumbles, picked up by Leon Lett. Can he go all the way? It's a 60-yard run. He's being chased by Beebe. Watch out. Did he get across? No, they are not. That's going to be a touchback to Buffalo.
There's no call yet, though.
He has not marked touchdown. It was knocked out of his hands and went out of bounds in the end zone, which would give it to Buffalo at the 20. And look at Lett. If they call that a no touchdown, he's going to dig a hole and crawl out of this place from there.
He's going to need a big hole.
It had no effect on the final score, really, with the Cowboys winning decisively 52-17. How about another oh-so-close moment? On this day in 2013, Phil Mickelson was on the cusp of shooting his first ever sub-60 round. This was the opening round of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. He played the back 9 first and had 7 birdies to shoot 29. He added 4 more to his scorecard, and as he walked up to the final green, he had a 25-foot putt for birdie and a 59.
Oh, no! Oh, my goodness! Have you ever seen a crueler lip out than that?
Golf is a cruel mistress. Mickelson's putt horseshoed around the cup and rolled a couple of inches back towards Phil. He tapped in for a 60. He kept his hot putter going the rest of the week to win the tournament by 4 shots over Brandt Snedeker, so at least he had a big fat winner's check to salve the wound of missing out on a 59 on this day in 2013. On this day in 1970, Pete Maravich became the all-time scoring leader in NCAA history. Maravich was a bit of a basketball vagabond in his teenage years. He didn't have much choice in the matter, really. He grew up in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, but when his dad, Press, got the head coaching job at Clemson, it was a move to South Carolina. Then Press joined the staff at NC State, so a move to North Carolina. In the hopes that Press could lure his son to play in Baton Rouge, LSU hired Press in 1966 to be their head coach. Pete really wanted to go to West Virginia, but after his dad promised him a car if he signed with the Tigers, Pete decided to go south and he soon became the Bayou Bomber. Since it was still mandated for freshmen to sit out their first year, Pete only had 3 years on the varsity. From his first shot as a sophomore, Pete had his sights set on Oscar Robertson's NCAA scoring record of 2,973 points. After averaging 44 points a game in his first 2 years, he started his senior year needing 687 points to break the Big O's mark. On this night, his LSU Tigers were playing at home against Ole Miss, and Maravich needed 41 to claim the record for himself. He scored 25 in the first half, tied the record midway through the second, but then spent the next 6 minutes looking for a bucket to put him over the top.
Looking around for Pete. He's going to try a 28-footer. He'll put it out. No good. It won't go in the hole. Maravich has missed like 5 straight shots now. Here they come again. 93-76. LSU leading. It's to Pete. A 21-footer.
The game was stopped at that point. His teammates hoisted him on their shoulders and carried him around the court for a few moments. The game continued, and he finished with 53 on the night and a 109-86 win over the Rebels. After the game, Pete reflected on passing Oscar in the record books.
Breaking someone of Oscar Robertson's stature, I think he's probably the greatest basketball player ever played. And I think I'm very fortunate to break his record because I followed him ever since I was a young boy, and I always felt he was the greatest, and I felt like if I could just maybe play little bit just as good as he could, or anything else that I could do all right. But I'm just real happy. I don't really think I really thought about the importance of it until all you guys came running out in the court, and then I think I knew after that.
Pete still had 13 more regular season games to play, and then they got an invite to the NIT where they made it to the semifinals before losing to Marquette. Pete closed out his career with 3,667 points, which is still the men's record, and of course that was done in just 3 seasons without having a three-point shot or a shot clock. Of course, that was bettered in 2024 by Caitlin Clark, who closed out her 4-year career with 3,951 points. Detroit Mercy's Antonio Davis finished 4 points shy of passing Maravich back in 2023. That would have been a bit controversial, though, since Davis had the advantage of a 5th year due to the COVID exception. On this day in 1920, Joe Malone scored an NHL record 7 goals as his Quebec Bulldogs beat Toronto 10-6. So the game on the ice then was a bit different than it is today. One, guys tended to play the majority of the 60 minutes. Second, forward passing of the puck was only legal in the neutral zone. Third, the league consisted of just 4 teams. Each team played a 24-game schedule, which was split into 2. The first half winner played the second half winner for the league championship. The Bulldogs were not really a good team. Outside of Malone, they didn't have much. He was a silky skater in a league of bruisers. He earned the nickname Phantom Joe for his stick handling and his skating skills. Well, on this night, Malone put up the first goal of the game at the 6:50 mark of the first period. He actually scored a second one in the first period, but it was disallowed for reasons unknown. He officially scored number 2 55 seconds into the second, and then he added 2 more in the period. He scored another hat trick in the third against a new goalie, with a couple of those coming on power plays. So you might think that Malone's 7 goals caused quite a stir all over Canada, or at least in Quebec, but it really didn't. One, there weren't a lot of people at the arena that night. It was 29 below in Quebec that night, so that kept some folks away. 2, these 2 teams were not in contention for any playoff spots. And 3, 7 goals at this point seemed like a natural progression. Just a month earlier, Montreal's Nuzi Lalonde scored 6 goals in a game. Malone would go on to score 6 goals in a game in March that same season, and Malone's 7 goals is still the most scored in an NHL game 106 years later. On this day in 1953, revenge was on the agenda for several baseball team owners, dealing a financial blow to Bill Veeck and the St. Louis Browns. Now, Veeck was the P.T. Barnum of baseball owners. He was a promoter always looking for new and sometimes strange ways to attract fans to the ballpark. But in the early 1950s, the Browns were in financial peril. Despite his best efforts, he simply could not get people through the turnstiles. After the 1952 season ended, Veeck saw the increasing importance of televised games, and he came up with the idea that revenue from broadcast rights should be shared with visiting teams. Other teams, recognizing the gap in popularity between them and St. Louis, voted the proposal down 7-1. After that defeat, Veeck instituted a no-pay, no-television policy, meaning teams could not broadcast their games on TV or radio when they came to St. Louis if they did not share a portion of their earnings with the Browns. On January 31, 1953, New York, Boston, and Cleveland retaliated by refusing to schedule any night games with St. Louis, which were more profitable than day games. Now stunted in another revenue stream, Veeck started looking for buyers for the franchise. The Browns would eventually wind up in Baltimore and become the Orioles, in large part to what happened on this day in 1953. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Singapore banned chewing gum in 1992. It is illegal to sell as well as import. It is not illegal to possess it or chew it if you can get your hands on a stick, that is. The ban was implemented for cleanliness on, say, subways and sidewalks and other places. If you are caught selling gum in Singapore, you can be fined upwards of 100,000 Singapore dollars, which is equivalent to about 80,000 US dollars, as well as a 2-year stint in prison. In 2004, the ban was lifted slightly to allow for the sale of therapeutic and medicinal gums, such as nicotine replacement gum. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.